Hello and welcome to part 2 of the vlog as I continue the bike ride from Rome to home. This time getting through the Alps, down into Austria, through into bits of Switzerland, and then picking up the River Rhine as it goes down through France and Germany, eventually into the Netherlands and the Hook of Holland. From there crossing over to the UK and back to Carlisle, back home. Hope you enjoy it.
So I'm back on the Via Claudia Augusta, the cycleway that takes me up towards the Fern Pass, about 5 miles out of Imst. Just riding through this lovely forest. Hear the birds tweeting, and there's a nice gravel track. It's quite hard packed, so it's reasonably easy to ride on. Not just for mountain bikes. Let's see how far we get. Oh, here comes a nice downhill bit. Anything that's slightly uphill is really hard work at the moment. Going downhill for the time being. Make the most of it. So I'll be hitting the Fern Pass soon.
Well, the Fern Pass hit me pretty hard really. I lost my way off the cycle track and ended up having to go onto the main road for the last mile or so to the top. It was pretty hard going really, with a lot of traffic on the road.
So it's Wednesday morning and I'm just heading off towards Germany now. I'm on the edge of the Alps. Although the mountains here are still pretty big, and I'm on another little cycleway which is taking me down by the river here, and well, we'll have a little ride along. Bike's doing well, getting the hang of handling it on these rough little patches. It's good fun really. Yeah, quite substantial bike. Very pleased with it. So let's have a look along here. When you're down here you think you'd never see anybody, but there's actually 3 or 4 people been past me already. Thankfully it's quite dry because I can see there's a few potential muddy bits and I don't have any mud guards on. Woo! But I like this, it's good fun.
I gradually left the Alps behind and eventually crossed over the border into Germany and then cycled on over the next couple of days through Fronten and then on to a place called Bregenz at the top end of the Bodensee.
So I've just arrived in Bregenz, that's Bregenz behind me there, and we're on the Bodensee. Lovely day, and I'm just starting out on the Bodensee Radweg cycleway. So I'll be going around and along that shore, and hopefully there'll be no really big hills. Make a change.
From Bregenz I cycled along the Bodensee to Friedrichshafen and had a nice day off there. It was good to get out of the Alps and along some flat bike tracks. It was interesting to see the boats coming and going, and also the Zeppelin up in the sky. Really good.
The noise that you can hear behind me is the Rhine fall. Have a look at this. There it is.
to Rhine Falls. Just focus in a bit. From Friedrichshafen, I eventually crossed the Bodensee to Konstanz and then picked up the River Rhine proper, stopping at Schaffhausen to have a look at the Rhine Falls. From there, it was nice, easy riding through lots of interesting German and Swiss towns, such as Zurzach and Sackingen, eventually coming to the big city of Bâle. So it's Monday the 28th of May, and I think it's a bank holiday back home, and I'm just cycling along. I've just come out of Bâle, which is down that way, and I'm on this canal side, so I've come away from the Rhine and I'm now following this I think it's a Eurovelo route. It's really dead straight, and this is an area called Alsace, something to do, I think it's the Camargue d'Alsace, presumably because it's quite boggy and marshy, but it's nice easy cycling, as you can see, just a dead straight gravel track. So let's have a little run down here and show you the scenery. Quite often find people with these trekking poles, seems to be a way of getting exercise. And so it goes. I think there's 25 kilometres of this, so it should cover a bit of ground for us. And between Basel and Neuf-Brisach, and I've taken shelter in a bus shelter. It's absolutely pouring down. There's a big thunderstorm, as you can hear in the background. I don't really want to get too wet. About another 10 miles to go and then I've got a campsite there, I think. It's 10 to 3. Not often being rained on really, but I don't really want to get wet, so I'm just going to sit this one out and hopefully it'll pass over fairly quickly. But it looks pretty solid over there. Oh dear. So at the moment I'm cycling along the Canal Rhone-Rhine, which is disused. The sun's getting out. It was a bit sort of overcast and drizzly earlier on, and this will take me up to Strasbourg, but I think it's about another 45 kilometres, and the route just goes along this canal side, so there's no route finding. It's just a case of keep turning the pedals really. Oops, some people coming past us. He's got a trailer on his bike. He doesn't look too steady though. Okay, what's happening up here now? Let's have a look. Some people in red. Oh, it's more cyclists, but they've stopped. Maybe to have a little rest. Good on them.
Bonjour.
Well, having cycled along the Canal de Rhône-Rhine, I eventually came upon the city of Strasbourg. Hoped to camp there, but the only campsite in town was completely full, so I had to continue. I went north, passing through some of the relics of the Maginot Line, and eventually found a campsite further on. It was a good long day, but eventually all was well in the end. Got a nice campsite.
So I'm between a place called Speyer and Ludwigshafen, and I'm just cycling along typical sort of Rhine cycle route. Lots of people today. I think there might be some sort of public holiday because I think all the shops in the town that I've just been through were closed, and there's loads of people. It's Thursday, loads of people out on the bikes here. But the Rhine is just over to my right, but you wouldn't really know it. You're sort of riding along for mile after mile, and there are very few opportunities to actually see the Rhine. Anyway, as you can see, it's quite busy today. You have to keep to the right side of the road because you've got people coming up behind you that are quite fast. It's sort of late morning and it's quite hot already, but there's a nice breeze. This bike up here looks heavily laden. There's even a dog on the front, look. Hi.
Well, good morning. It's Sunday the 3rd of June and I'm in Remagen, near the bells over there. It's 11:15 and I've just decided to stop for a cup of coffee and I've got some bread for lunch. Most places are shut except the bakeries. They always seem to be open, and a bit like Greg's at home, you can also get a cup of coffee as well as your bread and stuff. So I'm cycling on the Rhine cycleway. This is Remagen Promenade and I'm going in that direction, and the river's really opened out here again. I've just come through the Rhine Gorge where it's all a bit tight and constricted, but it's really nice down here. I've just passed a ruined bridge up there, quite interesting really. The story is that in 1945, when the Americans were here chasing the Germans back through Europe, that was the last remaining bridge that was intact across the Rhine. Apparently 10 days after they captured it, the bridge collapsed because it had been sabotaged and there were 40 US engineers killed there. So there's a bit of a memorial and a bit of a museum. But all the way along the Rhine there's just loads of history. It's just a very interesting sort of area really. Anyway, further down here is Bonn, so that's where I'm hoping to get to next. It's another lovely day, it's warm. I'm just in the shade of this little olive tree. There's a planter with an olive tree in it. Done about 8 miles. And it's really nice today. So I'm in Cologne. It's Sunday afternoon. I think it's June the 3rd, and I'm just wandering about. I found a campsite pretty early, about 3 o'clock, and I'm just cycled in. It's about 5 miles from the campsite. Just found my way into the city centre. It's quite busy, but I'm just outside the cathedral, so have a look at this.
It's enormous. There's a bit of work going on up there. I'm not sure how they managed to get that scaffolding sorted out, but they have done.
And so the journey continued, leaving Cologne behind, continuing down the Rhine on the embankments, crossing through open fields and small towns, but eventually reaching the big cities of the Ruhr, Duisburg and Dusseldorf. They were easy enough to get through, so I continued on and towards the Dutch border.
Right, here I am in the Netherlands, just on a cycle track, and it's unbelievably good. I mean, it's 2 lanes, it's like a little country road, but it's purely dedicated to cycling. And it runs through the Middle Rhine, I think it's called. I think the Rhine is just over to the left. And I'm heading now between Arnhem and The Hague, Rotterdam. So this is just purely a cycle lane. It's just fantastic, really. And already quite a few people out and about on it. So it's Friday morning, I'm just coming into Rotterdam, and I'm on the ferry boat now to a place called Ridderkerk, crossing the river Lek. There's a barge going up. So I finally arrived in Rotterdam. I've just come down this street down here. Bike lanes everywhere. Fantastic. Just swinging round, see the skyline. It's raining a bit, but it's quite warm. I'm just about to cross over the Erasmus Bridge and go into the centre of Rotterdam over there, I think. And that's the Nieuwe Maas river there. So I'm going to be heading downstream towards the Hook of Holland. So I'm here at the Hook of Holland, on the beach. It's Saturday morning, and I'm going to take the ferry today at 2:15, and I'm going to be heading in that direction towards the UK and Harwich. So kind of mixed feelings, really. Nice to be in Europe, but it's nice to be heading back towards home as well. But it's nice to relax this morning rather than just be pedalling away all the time. It's good. Once I got back to the UK, arriving at Harwich, I spent
the rest of the time cycling towards home up in Cumbria. But first I had to get across Norfolk and the low counties of Lincolnshire, where all the vegetables are grown for the UK market. I then went over the Lincolnshire wolds before dropping down eventually to the Humber Bridge and Hull.
So I'm on the Humber Bridge, crossing from North Lincolnshire over to Hull. Looking a bit gloomy over there.
From the Humber Bridge I then continued across towards York and then up into the Yorkshire Dales through Swaledale. There was heavy wind. I think it was Storm Hector that was coming in, a summer storm. So there's quite a lot of branches and leaves on the road. Then once I got to the top of Swaledale, it was a journey onwards down to Kirby Stephen and home back to Carlisle. Having completed the trip, I've now calculated that over 40 days I covered something like 1,940 miles. So it was good to be home and be able to rest up for a bit.
We're in Dalston, about 10 to 12, and I've got about another 6 miles to do, and then I'm home. Job done.